We have done the detail page UI. Also, we have populated the UI with the actual data. Also, we have done the toggle button, but this toggle button is not functional. Now we are gonna make this button functional in this episode. To do that, we are going to use CoreData. To use CoreData, first we need to add a CoreData model. To do that, hit up new file and then go to CoreData, add data model. Give it a name, watch list. Now we have to create an entity. Let's give it a name, movie managed object. In this entity, we have to add an attribute. Let's give it a name, title. The idea is like when we click on a movie watch list, we will take the name of that movie and then add it here. And when we will remove from the watch list, it will search from the attribute. If it finds the name in the attribute, it will delete it. And if it doesn't find it, it will add it. That's the idea. Let's give it a type string. Now we have to create some function to do the adding, deleting, fetching, stuff like that. To do that, let's go to the model and let's create a new file. Let's make a new Swift file and give it a name. Same name at the entity. I like to give it a name with a plus. Import CoreData. Now extension movie manage object. We are extending the entity, this entity. As this is not a CoreData course, we are not gonna go deep into the CoreData things. I would suggest you to just follow along. Now first we need to have a function to fetch the data. To do that, let's create a name, create a function fetch request. We will pass a name, any movie name, and it will fetch from the entity. So let's give it a name fetch. Let's take a variable fetch request. And as fetch request, we need to pass a result. Entity name should be our entity. Now from the entity, we need to find the data. So CoreData gives us a good technique to do that. Using predicate, we need to filter out some data. I need to pass the format. I need to pass the argument here. This is the Objective-C thing. I need to return the fetch request. Also in the function return type, we need to do the fetch request. So this is the function. By this we were going to fetch the data we want. Now let's create a function to save or delete the data. We'll pass a name just like the function previous, and we have to pass a view context as well. You can give any name, but this is most convenient. Let's manage object context. First, let's create the fetch request. And then if it is fetching successful, then we have to get the results. If it can fetch successfully, then we need to check if the existing model is movie manage object. If the type is correct, then we can assume that the data is there, because we are filtering the data with the name. So when it gives the result, it will give us a filter out result. So if it can fetch and if it can get the actual data, then we can delete the data. Existing, we can give it a name existing. And if it doesn't exist, then we will create the data. In the context. Now we can access the title of the context. In the title, we will assign the name. So that's how we can delete or enter the data into the CoreData. But this is not the end. We need to save it. To save it, we can just type try view context.save. If it cannot save, there is an error. So let's throw some error. So two function is done. First is for fetch request, second is for save or delete, and we need one more thing, which is to check if the movie is already in the list. So let's create another function. Let's give it a name, is on watch list. We need to have the same parameters. Actually, we can copy the whole thing and replace the name. And we don't need to save it. We don't need the else as well. All we need to do is return true. If it exists, then we'll return true. By default, we'll return false. That means it doesn't exist, and we need to give the return type of bool. So with this function, we are checking if the movie exists or not. Based on that, we will show the is on watch list button or not in the home page. And that's all the functions we need. We will implement this in the next episode.